I didn't see you there. Hi, welcome to another episode of Romance with Diane. Thank you so much to those who've joined so far, and thank you always to Brian Arminio for the wonderful intro, the title cards, all the video production stuff that you see is him. So, yay, Brian. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. I'm pretty excited about it. The first thing we're going to talk about is sheikh-themed romance novels, such as the one I'm reading here, called The Sheikh's Secret Son, combining not only secret babies, which romance novel authors and readers apparently love. I don't get it because I love secret babies in theory. Like, I love finding out that somebody was a secret baby after they're an adult, but like, I don't care about them when they're an infant, basically. Like, fuck that, that's boring. I don't want to like watch you raise a baby. I want you to find your dead mother's diary in an attic years later and learn that you were a secret baby. That is the only way it should be done, in my opinion. But Harlequin and every other publisher, this is a silhouette, I think, disagree with that, which is another reason why, even though I love romance, I don't really know that I'm a romance writer, because a lot of what I do is not according to like the Hallmark movie rules of Harlequin. But anyway, this combines not only secret babies, but also sheiks. And you might be like, why would that be a thing? Why would a man who has a royalty title, whatever, in an Arabic country be something that romance readers want? And I happen to know a lot about this. It's not because I'm secretly a fan. It's because that makes me sound like I am, and I'm really into sheiks, but I want to, like, I don't know. The more you deny it, the more it sounds like it, right? Speaking of deniers, I'm wearing my Joe Exotic style outfit tonight, so I hope you appreciate the leopard print outfit, and there's a leopard print bra underneath. So double leopard, rocking it for Tiger King. We're not done yet. Brian will only let me watch one episode at a time because it's too much Florida for him in one day. So I'm on episode 5. I'm not finished yet. So no spoilers, please. I need to be on this crazy train to the end. Anyway, I can hear myself. Anyway, so sheiks are a really big part of romance and have been for a long time. And this started in the 1920s. And it actually goes really deep in pop culture because there were a whole lot of movies about sheiks, and like Theda Bara, Rudolph Valentino. All of those actors were playing like Arabic characters, which is super questionable, very whitewashing. There's always the element of they're not really a foreigner, and this is like key to the sheik fantasy, is that he has this kingdom, he has this like, you know, caravan that they make love in, and camels are not romantic. Like, I'm a huge fan of adventure, and even I know that, but you know, he has camels and whatever, all the things they list in the Aladdin song, right, and Prince Ali. But don't worry, because he's either half like Arabic, like his mom is white or something, or he was like adopted into the tribe and raised by them. It's like almost a Tarzan situation. So it's always one of those two things. It's never that like it's an actual person of Arabic descent or Middle Eastern. It's never that. It's always some fucking white person in there, like playing exotic, which is such a huge part of anything in that culture, because there's also, and the reason I know so much about this is because it's adventure adjacent. So when I read adventure, this stuff is always like lurking just kind of around the corner and in the next bend. Like, it's one thing to fight for your lover while shirtless, carrying broken bottles in a harem, which happens in an Elizabeth Peters, Amelia Peabody book that I can't remember the name of. If anybody's read Amelia Peabody, please message me, because I have to talk about it with somebody. Are we ever going to get a movie? I don't know. I almost failed a math test because I was so distracted reading about the shirtless broken bottle harem fight. So it holds very very special place in my heart. But like sometimes adventure gets a little chic romancy, and then usually they'll climb back out of it. But it's a part of that exoticism of the other and the kind of Orientalism type of the like problematic stuff that's part of the genre. So anyway, I learned a lot about this because I took a couple of classes about colonial literature, because I'm a fan of adventure, and I'm also interested in like how this shit kind of happened and the reactions from the non-colonizers. Anyway, I don't want this to turn into a whole thing, but the point is, we read The Sheik, which is like the example of the chic romance novel, in a class in college, and it was so funny because I was carrying it around for school, and every single person was like, "Are you reading that for fun? Huh? Are you reading that for fun? Oh, that's already your book." I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, oh, I didn't kill my husband and throw him to tigers. Like, no, 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 no. That's not mine. I swear it's for class. But I had so much to say in class about that book. And I think it was one of those deals where you're that person that raises their hand and everyone's like, "Oh my God, again." And I'm like, actually, an adventure that's this. And, because I was talking about how the exoticism of the white woman is also a huge part of this too, because there's always a scene, and they do this in The Mummy even, and you could argue in Indiana Jones, though she's not in like any kind of traditional cultural costume, but the very important sexy costume change that ladies have in these types of films, where they go from wearing kind of like white person clothes to the like ethnic garb of the tribe that's probably fake and like overly sexy. But that switch of exoticism is supposed to be like, hey, remember, this is foreign and sexy. And that was a huge part of The Sheik, so I talked for like way too long in my class about that. I'm so sorry. I have a lot of feelings. So anyway, chic romance novels started in the 20s, and there's always this association of the chic with sex. And it even comes into condoms, because some of the very first condoms that were like produced in wide, like manufacturing large amounts, large amounts, I know what I did, were like Desert Prince themed. There were literal condoms called chic condoms, and I think there were some other brands too that had very similar names that were all about this kind of like sexy desert exotic world, like, oh, you can cover up and be I don't know, it's interesting. And fun fact that you did not want to know, in all of Fabio's written historical romances, he uses condoms. So go Fabio, I guess. He'll like make a point of it too. It'll be like, I found some sheepskin and it worked out. Like, it's very I will read a sample of that someday, but we're talking about sheiks right now and I don't want to get too sidetracked. So anyway, chic romance novels have been around for a long time, pretty much as soon as romance novels started publishing. And you would think it would be one of these dead genres that kind of peters out as we get more woke, or just as, the styles change, as we go more towards the Hallmark movie, as we go into these kind of contemporary Christian, as we go into things like Amish romance novels. We'll talk about Amish romance sometime, because like I have a lot to say about Amish romance novels, but we don't have time right now. Kind of the opposite of the chic, but also not, because it does involve an important costume change, like, ooh, taboo cultural things, but we secretly fuck and stuff like that. So are they that different? Think about it. So you would think that the chic genre would die out. It has not. It has not died out to the point where Harlequin, when I was looking into writing a Harlequin romance novel in, I think 2017 is when I did mine, yet unpublished, but it's called Rugged. If you want a spec of it, let me know. I like it. I don't know that they'll think it's like romancy enough, but anyway. I was reading the guidelines for submitting to Harlequin, and the guidelines literally say in bold, all caps, like at the top of the submission before you get into anything, we are not accepting the following category of story at this time. No sheiks or royalty. They literally have to spell it out because people keep submitting it, because that's how popular it is. Still that popular. I guess there's something about this like fantasy of like, ooh, it's another culture, but not quite, that people like, which I get, is a problematic, yes, but you know, what isn't? So a lot of people still have this fantasy, and it has slowed down a little, but like, to quote Tobias, Arrested Development, there are dozens of us, they're out there, and they want sheiks in bulk. So today we're going to read The Sheikh's Secret Son. And I'm going to start by reading the back. I know what books are called. She'd been swept away by his passionate caresses, losing her heart to a man who chose his country over her love. For Eden Fortune, forgetting Sheikh Ben Ramir was impossible. She had borne his son. The single mother had fiercely guarded her secret until the day Ben returned, demanding the truth. She knew the prominent ruler had a duty to produce an heir for his throne, and feared Ben's only interest was in claiming the child. Yet as the lord of the desert tempted her long-hidden desires, there's one to unpack for you, promising to stay with her forever, Eden vowed never to surrender her soul until Ben put their family first. And we can see on the cover, it's very 90s. There's the sheik. She's wearing what's totally a Laura Ashley dress. And also that kid with the bowl cut that was in like every commercial ever in this era. He's in there too. This one is something, but before we go into it, so it's part of a series, because they're always part of a series, right? They're like the elaborate family sagas, like a more shitty, more Hallmark movie version of like your Barbie saga, where you start with one and then by the end, like 2 hours later, you're to the grandmother's niece's cousin's nephew, like everybody is kind of related, right? So before we get into that, I just want to see if I have any comments. Comment your questions. If you have any questions you would like to hear answers from me, questions about romance, if you have recommendations either for me or that you would like me to watch or read and get back to you. Other fucking anything, who cares, right? We all live in our houses now, more so than usual, so let's talk. But before we go into it, they have, so this is part of the Fortunes of Texas. They have a little fake newspaper article, which as a child was my all-time favorite thing. I love a fake newspaper article because I used to write one. I actually have one that we'll talk about sometime. The headline is just Secret Child in all big red caps, which is, yeah, love a secret baby. Don't care about raising it though. Come back to me when you're 18 and then we'll talk. So in the newspaper, the little fake newspaper, it's called the Texas Tattler. And the headline is, Paternity Shocker. DNA tests conclusively prove that Matthew Fortune, eldest son of Texas billionaire Ryan Fortune, is the biological father of a child whose identity has plagued and baffled a family, national law enforcement, and the entire Lone Star State. Time for a quick scandal recap. This is literally what I used to do in 6th grade, so I was ahead of my time, obviously. And Kylie used to do this too. I don't think she's on yet, but Kylie, you love a secret baby, I know it. So then it goes into like the back story of this particular family saga. We don't care, but on the other page it has some of the other titles that they have in this series. And before I get into this, I just need you to know that one is called Corporate Daddy. We're just gonna let that settle for a minute. There's a famous romance novel of this kind of genre, of the secret baby genre, called Who's the Daddy, by Julie Christenberry, and the cover of that one looks exactly like the guys from Full House. Like exactly. Like they clearly use that as the inspiration. I actually happen to have a copy and I was so excited to find one because this is my life. So let's talk about this trash. So here's them meeting for the first time and arguing, but it's not sexy because it's boring. Oh, the fun part is he goes by Ben, but his actual name is Barack. Foreshadowing? 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 He's like, no one will know how to pronounce it. You were super wrong. Ben Ramsey. Oh, and of course he lied about who he was when they met, because that's how you start a relationship. Ben Ramsey, garden variety lawyer on vacation. Ha! I couldn't believe I fell for that. Although no one could blame me for not knowing you were really Sheikh Barak Karif Ramir, now could they? I mean, how many sheiks can 10,000 vacationing college girls hope to meet? In this world, a lot. What are the odds? Again, quite high. But now, since we seem to be firmly on the subject I really didn't want to talk about, let me take a wild guess as to why you left. You have a wife, don't you, Ben? Or maybe 6 of them. Girl, like... Girl, inappropriate. So they meet back up. The child is of annoying talking age because, again, he's here on the cover, so, like... Anyway, he looks like a 90s child. If you Googled 90s child, you would find this child. So then, of course, they have to have a lot of cute moments with the kid, which is the worst fucking thing in my romance or in my adventure, when they're like, what would make this great if we threw in a cute child? The Mummy Returns, I'm looking at you. That was trash. We did not need it. The people want Rick and Evie. The people want Imhotep and Inox and the Moon. The people want... sexy adventure. They don't need a child in there for fun. They also did it in the Zorro sequel that I've never seen because I was so mad about the child that I never watched the movie. But Zorro, The Mask of Zorro is life. We'll talk about that sometime too, because that's like gotta be one of the most formative and like cliche Diane things ever. Like sexy sword fighting, and again, like total appropriation of other cultures. Yeah, that's super present. I love Zorro though. He's Hispanic Batman. I love him. Zorro was my first crush other than Han Solo. I don't know which one was technically first. I usually tell people Han Solo, but it also might have been Zorro. We used to watch it as a family on Disney Channel back before they actually had like their own programming. So they were running like the Mickey Mouse Club and all the old reruns and like some of those like Annette Funicello shows. My dad watched this one called Spinnin' Marty, which was just like boys being wholesome on a dude ranch, and it was super boring. There were no outfits, like fuck that. But when we watched Zorro, I was like, something's happening, puberty. I think my parents are on this. I'm so sorry. So they make her take a DNA test to find out if the baby is actually the Sheik's. Maury, is that you? I love a good paternity test, don't you? Like episode of Maury. I know that's like 99% of what they do. Now, I kind of wish they would go back to My Mom Dresses Too Sexy, because those were my favorite. Like I love a makeover, but I also love a make under. I used to draw a lot of makeovers when I was little as well. I would do like the My Mom Dresses Too Sexy, like the super, like a woman wearing like this type of outfit with like the giant cleavage that was just like one line. And then I would do one after where she was like made over and like, I'm a mom now. I have no sexual agency. So they're taking a paternity test, which I think is super funny. And apparently the baby has the hereditary crown-shaped birthmark and rare blood type that proved that he is a Fortune, because again, her name is Eden Fortune. The results of the DNA test are back. Okay, Maury. And of course they don't tell you right away, but we know it's Ben. Like, we know that. We know. We already know. There wouldn't be a book. It's called The Sheik's Secret Son. Like, he obviously has this child. Oh, and the child's name is Sawyer, which is also the most 90s, like, precocious, Jonathan Taylor Thomas type of, like, name that you can have. Sawyer. I touched my face, but don't worry, I'm at home. Oh my god, why? She also wears a French twist a lot, which I don't think of as like a sexy hairstyle. Comment if you think a French twist is sexy. I don't think it is. I think a French twist is kind of matronly, and they're also really hard to do if you have like thin hair. They never stay up for me, ever. Just gonna look. I don't see any comments so far, so you should leave comments and ask me things and react to the content. So he's very sexy. Also, the thing about these is that there's not that much fucking in them. It's not like the Fabio ones where there's a lot of sex. Like the Fabio ones, they're having sex like every 10 pages. In these, they don't, because they're busy doing boring shit like getting to know the child and, you know, like having paternity disputes, which I don't care. Like, I think they have sex one time, like or maybe two, but like it's like right at the end, and it's not that good of a payoff because you know it fucking isn't. Like when I read Inheriting His Secret Christmas Baby a couple years ago, which is what I pull out at all holiday related performances when I don't know what to do. I had to kill time one time because the guy performing next was like having trouble parking or something, and he was like, can you just stall for 5 or 10 minutes? And I was like, Adam, I got you. Let me read from Inheriting His Secret Christmas Baby. So maybe we'll do that around the holidays. That'll be fun, right? You know, some holiday babies. Or there's another one called Her Festive Doorstep Baby, which like makes it sound like a burrito. Like you just left it there. Like, who wants to deal with this baby? Or the Kanye West. Now I gotta be responsible for this water bottle. Only it's a baby. Oh, every single time that they use a foreign word in this book, like a foreign language, they italicize it. Which is such a like condescending, like, ooh, look what we're doing. We're being culturally inclusive by using these words, but let me really other them by italicizing them. So very cool. Ooh, so you can play Silhouette's Lucky Hearts game. I think it's a scratch off. Free books, a free gift, and much more. I'll receive a brand new Silhouette novel, $4.50 and $5.25 in Canada. 1996, by the way. This is 96. Do you remember when you had to fill out stuff like this to like get free shit? Like I remember doing Babysitters Club books, like ordering them from the back of the other books, and you would just send in your $13.25 and exact change, no COD, right? That's what they always said. It's like what I remember. It's like embedded in my brain from my 90s childhood is no COD, no cash on delivery. You'd like have your $13.25 and you put it in the envelope and then you'd send it, and then you might get a book, but everything's so old that like everything I read was so past its prime. Sometimes you didn't even get anything. But should we scratch this off and find out if I get 2 free books? Hey baby, do you have a coin? Have you a coin, good sir?
Yes, Miss Ivy.
I'm making Brian get me a coin so we can see what we won. Hi, Mom and Dad. Bless you. Okay. Scratching off. This is so old. Oh my God. I feel like I'm making a mess. It's a heart, something of hearts. If it's a jack of hearts, I'm gonna laugh my ass off. No, it's an ace. I'm so sorry, baby. It's not a jack. Ooh, you got a cackle laugh. That's my real laugh that I like try not to do, but slips out when I'm very excited. It's the cackle laugh. So it's the Ace of Hearts. What does that mean?
Means it's a heart that doesn't have sex.
Oh wait, I get 2 free books and a mystery gift. God damn it! If I was for 1996, I would be banging. Because see, I got an ace, and it says if you get 21, you get 2 free books and a free mystery gift. Do you think the free mystery gift is Fabio? Like something Fabio related? Actually, I don't think he's a Silhouette model, so no. This is past the Fabio era because you can see they're using like real, like almost photo style illustration, and they try to make it like less heaving bosoms and like naked guys, which is lame. I don't know. I appreciate Kindle. To me, the covers are the best part of any of these books. Like I collect mostly for the art because I truly love it. So I'll never be able to get rid of my physical books. But we did win. We won. Free gift. That is a bummer. We would have been rich in 1996. All right, last one. Somehow they were both on their knees on the beige Berber carpet, still holding each other, their mouths still fused, which sounds like a human centipede situation. Gross. Eden felt her fingers ripping at Ben's silk tie, impatiently tugging at the buttons of his dress shirt. There was a lot to be said for those loose, flowing robes she'd seen him in, imagined him out of without ever admitting as much to herself. Cool air caressed her back as the zipper on her dress whispered open. Okay. The heat of 1,000 furnaces scalded her as Ben's hands slid along either side of her spine, found their way beneath the wisp of her black silk panties, cupped her buttocks as he ground himself against her. Lovely. There's more, but it's not that interesting. And then it goes back to paternity, and oh, surprise, he's the dad. And they decide to live happily ever after together. Of course they do, in whatever land they're from. And then it gives you the, next month, what to expect. And that one is The Heiress and the Sheriff. When a lone Texas lawman rescues a bewitching lady who has lost her memory, will he find himself lost in love? I got that scratch off shit all over me. I'm guessing he will find himself lost in love, but also, amnesia plots are the worst. I would almost rather raise a secret baby than deal with an amnesia plot. That's how much I don't care. At all. Cool. Let me take a sip of water here. I still see 0 questions. So before we're going to go into some of my writing from this era, which, as you may suspect, is almost entirely like the Mummy fan fiction with the names changed. I did it first, E.L. James. I truly did, for most of high school, submit thinly veiled Mummy fan fiction as as content for every class. And the thing about me is I'm insane, so I can turn any prompt you give me into an adventure romance related prompt. It doesn't matter what you tell me to write about, we will get there. Because I have a mission, I care about one thing, and it's all I'm willing to write about, so deal with it. But it is funny because they would be like, write about school, and I'm like, library school because you're a librarian with a secret? And they'd be like, write about a day at a park. I'm like, where you discover a cursed magical box? Write about a party I'm going to with my rugged guy who doesn't know how to wear a tux, and I have to help him tie a bow tie, and we almost kissed and it's a moment. By the way, still a great trope, 100% love it. I made Brian reenact it for me when we were in Miami, and it was amazing, so just saying. I know what I'm about. So this one is what I wrote for creative writing, and there's no teacher comments, just full points, because they're tired of my bullshit. They were like, all right, we're gonna just let you write Mummy fan fiction. It's technically well done, so we can't tell you no. So, all right, points for you. We talked last time on the live about turning in overly elaborate assignments because you have no friends, and this is another one. It has no title, so I don't know what the prompt was. It was a stifling hot day. The kind of day when it's so humid that your arms stick to the top of your desk and make a kind of squelching sound when you ply them off. The kind of day where all the lights are off, fans are going, and it still feels like an oven. I wafted my paper fan through the thick air, hoping to catch a draft of cool breeze coming from the window, but it was of little use. My typewriter's keys seemed to stick more than usual, and the tops of the little ivory squares were wet with perspiration. I watched my fellow employees' efforts to stick to the task at hand. They weren't having much better luck than I was. That's how it feels in here right now. It's 100 degrees with the lights on and stuff, so I'm struggling too. I tried to focus on the handwritten document taped to my desk. The lines blurred together in the half-light. Cheery words of fresh island breezes and sandy beaches did not help my mood. I've seen so many of these little brochures, and most of the information is written by those with the glass half full perspective, at least when it comes to promoting tourism on the island. By some miracle, just as I was nodding off, someone stormed through the door. That someone crashed into a filing cabinet, muttered some phrases I don't care to repeat, and slammed his hands down on the top of my desk. "Hello, Maggie," my brother said happily. "Here comes Jonathan from the Mummy." Seeing that there were no chairs available, he perched on the top of my desk and twiddled his thumbs. No man in anything I've ever written has sat in a chair correctly. That's a huge always. They're either backwards or putting their feet on desks or leaning. They have no spine. Any man I've ever written could not stand upright if his life depended on it. I don't know. I do find leaning sexy though, so I guess it's Harrison Ford's fault. That's why. It's 100% his fault because he never sits upright and he's always just slouchy. That's why even now. "What are you doing here?" I asked, quite annoyed that he'd caught me napping on the job. "And don't call me Maggie." I love a girl with a shortened nickname that she hates. That's a huge mood for me. Anytime. She never likes the short nickname that the adventurer or the brother or somebody always calls her. "I came to tell you something." He leaned in closer and looked about with a secretive air. "Yes?" Hoping the man would go away after he'd told me about whatever it was he'd found. No doubt it was some boring old piece of pottery or something. He's been very excited ever since his program at the university led him on a real archaeological dig. There it fucking is. I will get it in there no matter how. I'm the one that gets stuck listening to him. He produced a tiny fragment of rock from inside his coat pocket. I had to strain my eyes to see it was written, they had writing on it. "Someone wrote a note on your precious piece of rock?" I asked dryly. "Magdalena." He was getting annoyed with me. "All right, what is it then?" "For your information, this writing here is Zazen." Not a real thing. "It happens to be a very rare form of dialect from a time where, up to this point, no one thought any civilization existed at all on our little island." I nodded, a tiny bit interested now. "What does it mean?" I asked. "It means I could be the richest man this island's ever seen." I know we're supposed to make fun of this, but I would read this. Still would. Still kind of want to write it, honestly. I don't really know where it's going because, like I said, they're all Mummy fan fiction. So, they're just barely different. They're like the 50 Shades of Mummy fan fiction, except not shitty because I'm good at what I do. Awkward wink. Checking for questions. No questions. So that's the first one. Trying to decide which one's funnier. Oh. Once again, I have no teacher comments except for plus 15. Here's your credit, Diane. Please stop. Exercise number 21. It was him. Why did it have to be him? Why couldn't it be anyone else? I'd settle for the devil himself before letting him see me like this. It couldn't have been a normal day when I looked halfway decent, and I'd gotten at least a few hours of sleep. It had to be today, when I woke up late, acquired a rather large ink blot on my left cheek, and was carrying more books than the average library. I have to go into the voice when I do this, please no, I have to. I should have paid better attention to my surroundings while I was watching him walk down the hall, in my direction, of course. But I was too absorbed in trying to single-handedly clean up my appearance while still hanging on to my books. My insubstantial shoes, had to wear them today, didn't I? Slipped on the one tile on the entire floor that was not yet dry. I grasped onto the wall for support as I watched some of my most important papers scatter to the floor. "Good morning," he said cheerfully, leaning haphazardly against the wall. You guys knew he would. Where I was gathering my wits, his face a few inches from mine. I love people to lean and then almost accidentally touch. That's such a mood. I love a good accidental touch. "It is not a good morning," I replied icily. "For your information, it's a horrible morning. People that enjoy Monday morning should be shot." I noted the familiar sardonic smile playing across his lips. What adventure man doesn't have a sardonic smile? Come on. Why couldn't I have greeted him casually and walked on? Girl, I wonder that daily. Instead, I had to blurt out my real feelings, which could have kept me here forever if he was in a contrary mindset. "Shot," he replied. "Don't you think it's a little harsh? Even for me?" I have to do the Harrison Ford lean, that man has no bones. I pressed my lip together, fighting a desperate battle to keep the hot words from bubbling out of my mouth. My stupid pile of books had to go and slip again. I struggled to pick them up. Before I could bend down, he reached over and picked them up for me. I took them from his outstretched hand and nodded my thanks. "Have a nice day," he said. I stammered. Why couldn't he just let me stay mad at him? Of course he had to go and do something nice, just to spite me. "Have a nice day, too," I whispered, but he was already gone. Do you ever just do the most at all times? Comment if you ever just do the most at all times. Also, I've seen 0 likes on this video. Bush to audience, please clap. So one of these is like funny. One of these is extra. Well, they're both extra. Who am I kidding? I love like a good. Trying to decide which one to read. One is like that they're at a campfire after a fight and like not talking to each other, but they're gonna make up. And the other one is, I love doing any of the beginning of anything. Like I'm so good at that first like jump in and like get right to the action. Like I know how to like get in there. I'm not Tolkien, you know, I don't need to give you a whole like family. I love a family saga, but I don't need to give you all that before I start throwing in the bullshit. Like I throw the bullshit immediately. I'm like, here's an ancient thing, go. Because most of my influences are film and they start really fast, so I tend to still have that like outlook. My people get to where they need to go and they do it immediately. I'm gonna read this one because it is extremely extra. Dr. West wiped the sweat from her brow as she stared at the mountains of paperwork yet to be completed, cursing her secretary for coming down with some supposedly fatal illness. Ooh, is this too soon? She picked up a pen and scratched her signature violently across a set of forms. "Don't rip the paper," Dr. Benton joked. His jovial eyes and untrimmed beard peered at her from the doorway. Dr. West grimaced. Who did Benton think he was? Father Christmas? Dr. Benton, realizing West neither heard nor cared about his joke, cleared his throat in a somber manner. She looked up at him, though all he saw were 2 blazing eyes underneath stacks of medical information. "There's someone here to see you," he said, making a quick exit. It was best to leave Sophia West alone when she was in that "don't bother me or I'll commit a homicide" kind of mood. For a minute or so, she didn't realize anyone was in the room with her, but tiny shuffling footsteps gave away the visitor. "Who's there?" she asked gruffly. When she didn't get a response, she looked out from her paper mountain and found herself looking into the velvety eyes of a little boy. "My father," the child said. "He is very ill. You must come at once." She sighed, torn between the stack of papers due tomorrow and this wide-eyed boy. She shrugged and got up abruptly. The little boy smiled and led the way. They stopped outside a monstrous old building. It reminded her of a human face, with broken windows as open eyes, a stained plaque as the nose, and rickety fire escapes aplenty as the wide smile. "Where are we?" she asked the child. He gestured toward the plaque, which read, "Trayton City Prison No. 2. She stooped to his level, dropping on one knee in the muddy courtyard. "Are you insane?" Watching the little boy's face fall, she rephrased the question. "Your father's in jail?" The little boy nodded tragically. "He's innocent. I swear it on my dead mother's grave." You can tell I wrote this in an accent. I'm going to not do it because I've learned. She sighed exasperatedly. It was going to be one of those days. Very well. They walked up the grimy steps, carefully watched by armed guards flanking the entire staircase. They did not question her presence, but Dr. West visibly shuddered as their cold gaze followed her. They journeyed down the dank halls where the filtered gray light touched unkempt cells and showed the dust left from whenever the place had last been cleaned. The smell was appalling, even from what she was used to in the slums. Again, I'm not touching that. The boy led her to a tiny cell off the main corridor. Inside, a crumbled-up figure lay on a hard stone bench in the darkened corridor. "That's your father?" she asked carefully. "Oh, that's your father. It's a question." "Yes, miss." Without considering the consequences, she opened the rusty cell and stepped in. Contrary to what she expected, no alarms went off or guards came to ask what she was doing. Dr. West decided not to think about what an escape would be like at this place. The man rolled over onto the dusty straw at the cell's floor. With one deft movement, she checked his temperature and other vital signs. Looks like your father just has a bad case of the flu. Again, too soon, I'm so sorry. Reaching into her handbag, Dr. West produced a bottle of pills. Make sure he takes one a day, and his recovery should be speedy. The little boy didn't look as relieved as she thought he would. In fact, throughout the whole process, he had become rather distant. The man rolled over and groaned softly. With lightning speed, he grabbed her ankle. She yelped, but it was too late. The man was on his feet, dragging her with him, and the little boy was already out the cell's door. She tried to call for help, but no one heard her as they made a quick exit through the back gates. Where are you taking me? She screamed, hoping someone would overhear. There's been a slight change of plans, little boy said. He's not sick, and he's not my father. I'm guessing the guy is supposed to be our adventure guy when we meet him in his, state of disarray, right? Like, you gotta meet your dude at the most dirty. There's no question. You have to meet him at his most, unshaven, blood-soaked, just come from a fight, right? So then you can be like, oh, how appalling. Who is this man that would do this, right? But you're kind of into it, but you can't admit it because it's weird. And then the next time you see him, he's cleaned up and you're like, oh, interesting. That is ubiquitous across all adventure. God bless it. I love it. That trope's my favorite. Particularly in The Mummy. I think it's so cute. But anyway, those are my fan fictions that I wrote. And the last one isn't really The Mummy so much as just again, pretty much any adventure that I could possibly try to pass off as a school assignment, I would do it. I did a piece for Mortified a couple years ago where I read all of my adventure epic that was supposed to be World War I, but I didn't care, so I did World War II anyway, so I could put Nazis in it because, of course, I had to do a whole Raiders of the Lost Ark thing, and it's called The Poison Ruby. It's amazing. There's illustrations, and there's a hunchback, so it's pretty good. And honestly, I read through the outline, and I was still I'd read this, though. That's the thing is, I have not changed at all. I always think I've outgrown it. I'm over it. I've moved on. I'm an adult. I don't care about adventure. And then all it takes is one thing, one viewing of anything. And I'm like, oh, I love this so much. And it's just so good. I don't know. And yeah, I know that it's predictable, but they're my Hallmark movies. They're my secret babies. They're my sheiks. And I love them. And I love my trash. So we're almost done, and I don't see any comments, but I did get a question in Instagram from Polly asking about what I think about the movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I love it. I haven't seen it since I was younger, so I definitely need to re-watch it. But I remember watching it in 5th or 6th grade because the really cool thing that my parents have always been really good about media and introducing me to new media and saying, hey, if you like this, here's some other things, or finding somebody to tell me about those things, using the library to recommend stuff for me. So we did kind of a classic movie education, I remember, with me when I was in 5th or 6th grade, and we watched Casablanca and all the classics and Citizen Kane and all those kind of things. Me and my mom would watch them because my sister was still, I think, a little bit too young, and she doesn't really like stuff like that. So. But I did, obviously. So I remember watching it as part of my classic movie education, and then my mom tried to recount the entire plot to my friend's mom, and I was just like, oh, I don't think anyone else is as invested as we are. Please, enough, stop. Because it was before the Memorial Day parade, because I had stayed up really late watching that movie, and then I had to go be at marching band the next day for the parade. Very, very cool. And I wore my hair for the first time in a side part, which I also still remember very clearly. And I felt so fly. I was like, I'm retro. This is retro, right? And it looked like shit, but I felt good in it. And I still do. So, still the same side, too. So that was funny. So I like that movie. I definitely need to rewatch it. It's very creepy, and I like that about it, obviously. And the acting is really good. And she also said movie recommendations in general. I have a lot, obviously, but a movie that I think is really, really slept on is Down with Love. I think it's 2006, and it's like a 60s parody of a like Doris Day, Rock Hudson like romantic comedy, and it's so visually stunning. Like everything is like pastel, candy colors. All the clothes are really great. Ewan McGregor is the main guy, and there's an amazing secondary kind of like camp heterosexuality romance going on with Sarah Paulson and David Hyde Pierce, and it's like the best parody of straight people ever. And it's just a fun movie, and people don't like it because they weren't ready for like that level of 60s yet, but Mad Men happened 2 years later, and then we were really ready for it. So I feel like it just like got released at the wrong time, but I think it's really beautiful, and it's ridiculous, and it just has so many dumb double entendres and like cool, I love a good side-by-side shot, like the talking on the phone to different people. Like that's one of my favorite things. I love it. It's very old school. I always put it in everything I've ever written, especially the getting ready, like showing one person being sloppy and like hanging out and the other person's like, you know, getting really done up and stuff. Like I love that. I do that in all of my fiction because I like it. So there's a lot of good shots like that, and just really good clothes. Like for the fashion, the 60s fashion alone, you should watch it. So that is my recommendation of like a slept on movie that you should go see. Brian, do I have any questions that I can't see? Like maybe am I just blind? I might just be unpopular, but I'm also not sure.
No, not that I see.
All right, cool. I guess I just want to follow it up by talking about some mental health stuff, because that's fun, right? We're all struggling. Duh. It's not fun. I hate, like, even having to deal with real world bullshit. Like, I'm very privileged to not have to deal with a lot, and like I can barely handle my very privileged life on a daily basis, and now I have to deal with like all these other actual crises that people are experiencing. I have a lot of friends working in healthcare that are really like struggling, and we're all trying, aren't we? You know, it's hard. I lost my shit last week for sure. I had like a horrible round of depression, and a lot of it too is related to, you know, when you have PMS and then you get your normal amount of like hormonal bullshit, and then to top it with like, surprise, there's a global pandemic. It is a good time. So if you're struggling with the, if you're someone who has a period and you're struggling with the PMS pandemic edition, I am here for you, because it is horrible, and it will have you in like the full burrito mode with the blanket over your head, just like, I don't want to do anything. I took 3 naps today. Like I get like paralyzed where I can't do anything, and I hate that, because I want to be moving. I want to be, if not productive, at least like enjoying myself, and you can't enjoy yourself when you're not feeling good. So please do your best to take care of yourself and each other, as Jerry Springer says. I'm like, that's good advice, Jerry Springer, but also consider, I don't know. That reminds me too that I strive to handle everything like Maury on a paternity test episode, because he is so chill. Like there is so much bullshit happening. He's just like, yeah, okay, like sitting there in his sweater like, that's interesting. So you say that she cheated on you, and that's definitely not that bad. And then he'll comfort the person while the other person does their like crazy happy dance, right, that they don't have another child, they think, until they come back and it finds out, oh, it was your baby, suck it, the results are in. Yeah. So I try to handle things like turtleneck Maury on a paternity test. Like, you just gotta not care. I mean, care about your fellow man, but you gotta like let shit go, and I struggle with that every day. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully you are doing okay. And on that lovely note, I think we were about ready to wrap it up. Thank you again to everybody who joined. I hope you enjoyed hearing my fan fiction that I submitted for an actual grade in the class. I got an A- in that class because I improperly bound my book, and I'm still pissed about it. I'm not over it. I had the best quality content. You just didn't like it because the binding was slightly crooked. Suck it, Mrs. Meyer. I'm not over it. It would start with an M. I don't remember her full last name, but I would use it if I did, because I'm still mad. All right, have a very good night. We'll see you next week. Bye.